Hello everyone. In today's session, we will cover one of the requirement which is now going to be implemented strictly by the Journal Authority of Zakat and Taxation in KSA, and for that the QR code requirement is necessary to be printed on each and every sales invoice, whether it is a free tax invoice, whether it is a sales invoice, or whichever invoice it is. So maybe it is from point of sale retail invoice. So for every invoice it is mandatory that a QR code should be printed, and the requirements of QR code will be at least five fields will be printed there, and which I will show you through the code. Basically, this is a system which is AX 2009, and it is very old system now, but the same approach can be utilized in AX 2012. Although for D365 FinOps or Finance and Operation, Microsoft is giving this I think in the updates, so that will not be a problem in D365 Finance and Operation, but might be the same approach can be used in the new version as well, if there is some of the reports which are missing the QR code from Microsoft side. So without any delay, we will just go through the requirements for implementation of QR code. So you must be seeing various blogs and various developers who have already done this, but there are different system in which it was done, so that might not be very applicable for you. So that's why it is necessary that in X++ how it need to be implemented. So just first of all, in class declaration, we need to declare the variable. For example, these are two variables. To keep, basically one variable will keep which is type of integer, will keep the counter or index of a byte array, and the second one will be QR code byte array, which will hold the data for QR code, which will later be printed. So these two variables will be required on a global level to be declared, so that to keep track about the index, whatever we will be populating in the array and the array itself, and this will be system.byte array. So this is interop functionality which we will be using, and after class declaration there will be one method which will be repeatedly called in order to populate that array, and the parameters of this method will be first of all the tag, length, and then the array or value itself. So this is a TLV structure as per dictated by the authorities, and that will hold basically in the tag, it will hold the serial number, you can say, since there will be five values, so that can be a company information, the tax number or VAT number assigned to that company, and then it can be invoice date and time, and then it can be for example invoice amount inclusive of VAT, and then VAT amount itself, value added tax amount, or sale tax amount itself. So these are five different values or field values, you can call it, and for each value or each row there will be a tag number, for example 1 2 3 4 5, and similarly the length dictates basically the length of value in each of the row of the array, and then this is a byte array string. So for each of the row, like there will be five rows containing values, field values for five of these information which I just told you. So for each row you can say that it will hold the basically value here, and it is not for the row, but basically it is for the value, but that value will be the byte value. Okay, and then basically there is a counter here, and first of all the tag value which is passed, it is converted to a byte here, through system convert function and to byte. This value, that is serial number, can be 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. It will be converted to the converted uh, to the byte, and then basically in this QR code byte array, which is globally we have already defined. So for each value, this serial number or tag number will be assigned to the basic using this index. Basically this index will keep track whenever a new field value is assigned. So for example, after assigning this value, we will need to increment this by 1. So after that, we need to assign the length of the value, and again the last index which was incremented here is basically used in order to set the value here, and then once we have set the value, then the counter is increased. So in this way, QR code byte array, which is our global byte array, will be populated, and once tag and length has been assigned in terms of bytes, then for the passed value, for each of the character, we need to assign that as a byte. So that need to be used like this one. Byte array string which was passed will need to increment the another counter here, because this can be a 10 character array which is passed. So for 10 times this loop will run, and the length is taken from this statement, that is the CLR interrupt. So basically the length of this passed array is taken, and then it counter will run until the length is over, until the length. So then for each of the character, it will be set to the global array, and then it will be incremented. So for each of the character, it will be incremented. There will be 2 characters here, one character for tag and one for length, and then there can be, for example, 10 character string or byte array which is passed, and so there will be a 12 total length which will be assigned. So this counter will increment till 12, and 13 will be the next time it will be called. So I have put here the documentation. You can just copy this code if you want to implement, and there can be slight difference, like maybe this set value in AX 2009 is like set value, but in AX 2012 it can be set item. So just, and the parameter might be swapped here, like index will be first, and then this value will be the second. So there can be minor difference, but majority of the things will be same. So you just need to implement the method just like this. For 5 of the field values or 5 of the different information kind, it will be called. So this method will be called, and it will just populate the global byte array. Okay, so this one you need to just create this method, and then what you need to do is just implement a display method, which in this report I have implemented like a display method on cust invoice trans footer, and the implementation I will show you. This display method basically will return a container, and that container will be basically, if you I can show you this bitmap control which you need to place here, and you need to adjust the left, top, and width and height property. The width and height property I have put 45 mm, and this is as per your requirement, whatever your requirement is. And then in the data method, the QR display method, QR code display method is being called here, which I will just show you, and in this way the control will be placed in the report in order to show it. So I will show the report as well in the end. Just let me open this display method which is implemented, which is being called on the control level. So here you can see that this is a public method, and display type, and display is very obviously a method which returns a value or shows a value temporarily. Unlike a physical field, it will just calculate value and return a value. So that is a display method, and this is a return type, which is a container. It will be a bitmap container definitely. And then the implementation is like in this previous version, we used to separate the variables from the statements by using the semicolon as a best practices. So that is no more in AX 2012 and D365 FinOps, but in that we used to do this. And now in the variables, you can see there are string variable of type, for example, type string for keeping the company name, VAT number or tax number of the company, date, time of the invoice, and total VAT amount and total amount inclusive VAT. And then there is one string for the QR code base 64 encryption. So this need to be also used later on. Similarly, there is a QR byte array length variable of type integer, and there are certain other variables used for interop as well as for keeping the file path and for bitmap, which we need to show as a QR code. And these you just need to copy it if you want to implement. And then basic component here are encoder, which is a QR code encoder, and it will turn the base 64 string into the graphical form of QR code. And here we are using encoding UTF-8 variable, which is basically in order to encrypt or transform it into UTF-8 type of text or string. So that is a variable system.txt text.encoding will be the type from the .NET we are using here. And then you can see at the bottom the file path where the bitmap will be stored temporarily, and then the permission set which are necessary in order to use CLR interop. So that need to be done just like this, and because multiple calls will be there, so assert multiple is used here along with permission set which we have already set here. Read and write permission to the file level, so that is being passed here. And then encoder instance is being initialized here using QR code encoder type, and similarly encoding UTF variable which earlier on was declared for a general encoding type is being initialized into UTF-8 type here. So that also need to be initialized. And then QR code byte array index, this is the global byte array index which is being initialized to 0, although when it is declared, so definitely it will hold 0 value in at the initial level, but even then we have initialized it. And then there are 5 statements here which are basically copying the string value to the variable which we have already declared at the top. So that is just like company info name and company info registration number. This is VAT number. So whatever your field is, you can copy from there. And then str date and time. And in this case, the invoice is only having the date. It is not having time. So we just hard coded the time. At the end, you can see the 12 at the noon, and the remaining structure is like year, 3 for year, and then month and day. So the field value is being passed here, and we have called date to str function. The first parameter is the date itself, and then the format, and then the also the for example, this is date, day, and month, and then year. But the sequence will be 3, 2, 1, means year will be first, and then month, and then day. So but for each of the information there will be 2 digits, so that is only for year it will be 4 digit, it is shown here, and the separator will be hyphen, which is shown here, and then we will concatenate with the time by giving a space value here. So in this way you can just initialize your date and time variable. And then total VAT amount is basically our field value here is excluding tax amount or VAT amount, so we are also adding it. but in your case it might be already inclusive, so you can use that one. And then we have used strfmt string format function and passed a parameter, and in which this is embedded the value. So ultimately it will convert it into a string value and assign to this variable. Similarly, fifth variable is total amount inclusive of VAT, that is directly assigned here in this one. And wait a minute, this is, I think, reverse of this is basically total VAT amount, and the other one is total amount inclusive VAT. So I think I have swapped it. So anyhow, I can just change it here. So in this way, this will be total VAT amount, and this will be total VAT amount inclusive. This is total amount inclusive of VAT. Okay. So after initializing of 5 variables, what we need to do is we need to find the length of all the variables, all the strings. So for that, what we have done, first of all, we have called strfmt in order to concatenate all 5 string values. Once it is concatenated without any spaces, then we have called strlen function in order to calculate the length of the embedded string inclusive of all 5 values. And once it is returned, then we have added 10 number. Why 10? Because there are 5 values. So for 5 values, there will be 1 character for tag and 1 character for the length, to reflect the length of the string. So there will be 2 additional character for each of the 5 information or field values. So that's why 5 multiplied by 2 will be 10. So to keep a buffer of 10 for those additional 2 characters per information. So this is why we have added 10, and then this will bring our QR byte array length to be accurate. And once we have the length of the byte array, then we can initialize our byte array basically, and that will go to the QR code byte array here. And this is our global variable, byte array variable, which we have already shown at the class declaration level, and we are mentioning here that it will keep all basically tag and length structure for TLV, that is tag, length and value structure, keeping 2 characters per each structure for tag and length. Okay, afterwards we are now calling the method which we have just reviewed before this method. So in that we are passing 3 parameters. One is the tag number, which is serial number. I have told already that it is serial, just like serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that parameter is type in integer, and then string length of each of the value here, which is being passed. So and then what we are doing is using encoding UTF-8, we are getting the bytes of the string. Instead of string itself, we are getting the bytes and passing the byte array to the method we have written already. In this way, we will call our method 5 times, just like this, keeping the field value differently for each of the call and tag number differently. So once we have done it, so our global variable QR code byte array must have been populated at the end of 5th call. So afterwards, what we need to do is we need to convert our QR code byte array to base 64 string. For that, we can call in this way and pass it, and then populate again into the string variable which we have already declared here, as I have already told you. It is all of type string. Once it is populated in a string, converted to the string, so we can then pass it to the encode function in order to convert it into the basically then bitmap and assign to the bitmap object. So then we can get the bitmap and save to the file path, and then the file will be loaded, and that's it. Then bin data.get data will populate the container, and we'll revert the assert which we have for .NET interop. Before we have assert multiple, so we need to revert it at the end and return the container. So once the container is returned, this will populate the control, and then I will show you how it works basically. So just a moment, I will open it from free text invoices. Okay, any of the invoice. So there is a VAT or sale tax amount, so we'll open this one and just go to the invoice and just open the QR preview, and you can see here our QR code is just reflected in the invoice, and this QR code definitely then is scannable, and this should be scannable using your one app which is given by our Gazette authority. So this general authority for zakat and taxation, and they have given this in order to scan basically, and it is available on Android store or any other store, so maybe Apple store as well. So you just need to scan using your camera, and then the information should be reflected just like this one. So once it is showing you the green status, then it means the QR is compatible with zakat tax and custom authority, and then it is successful. You can follow the example and you can clearly achieve the results. So that's it guys, and I hope it was informative for you, and since the deadline is very near, so it is very useful for you guys if you can follow, if you are using AX 2012 or 2009 or even D365 FinOps or any other report which is sales report or free text report for the customer, and that need to be as per the authorities regulations. So thank you very much guys, and take care, and bye bye.